honesty declaration, and take note that we will be using Turnitin. Okay, so this implies that you must use relevant sources which are outside the study guide. So what does that mean? It means sources that are relevant to the South African context and to your module content. I had students explaining to me interviewing, and then they would write it from a research methodology perspective. You cannot take a discipline like research methodology and discuss that type of interviewing in an investigative space, and vice versa. So make sure that whatever you are using, whatever source you are citing, it is relevant to the discipline, in other words, crime intelligence, or the process, or proactive or reactive crime intelligence, or financial investigations, and make sure that it links to the South African space. Some of these documents are only applicable to Europe or to the global North countries, and not applicable to South Africa. I want to re-emphasize, you may not ask anyone to help you. You cannot send me a WhatsApp on Wednesday evening and tell me, please, can you clarify this question for me? Guys, this is an exam. As you would sit in an exam, you would not be allowed to talk to anybody around you. You cannot phone a friend, but you can go onto Google, and you can ask Google, and you can ask Siri, and you can ask what is the Google girl's name? Alexa. You can ask Alexa to help you, because that is part of doing research. But then you must cite the source that you are using. Okay. One of the fundamental characteristics in investigation is ethical and honest conduct. Now, ethics is not what you are doing when people are watching. It's what you are doing when nobody is watching. Again, there's no invigilator app for this time around. Nobody is watching you. You will have to check the honesty declaration and submit before the system will take your work. And then remember, it goes through Turnitin, which will detect how well you've paraphrased your work, and it will also flag when two students submit very similar exams. So please watch out for that. Okay, in the study guide, you have 5 units. And the 5 units, the content of the 5 units were addressed in assignments 1 and 2. So I've included questions which cover all of the units. Remember to look at the questions. Ask yourself, what is the question asking of you? And then determine whether you have to discuss a principle, a theory, a process, or steps. Are there steps that you must follow? And then you answer at the hand of that. This is where the reading of your study guide will come in very handy, especially if you flagged and tagged the different units. So for obvious reasons, I cannot tell you exactly what I'm covering in the exam, but I can tell you thematically that what you will find thematically has been covered in assignment 1 and assignment 2. And remember, you must reference the source that you are using when answering the questions. So let's go through the study units quickly. Study unit 1 is the basic theories and principles of forensic crime intelligence. This study unit is about 11 pages long. It has an introduction. I hope that you can all hear me over the storm. Is my audio still okay? George, don't you want to put your mic off? George Lamarco, thank you. Okay. Then you will look at the definition of forensic crime intelligence and the different types of crime intelligence, and there's a conclusion. So basically, Study Unit 1, the basic theories and principles of forensic crime intelligence is found in Chapter 1. So if the question deals about a theory or a principle of forensic crime intelligence, you will find the answer in Chapter 1. But again, we're going to look at the mark allocation just now. Please do not use just your study guide. Use Google, go and look online for additional sources, and use the additional sources as well. There are several additional resources on your module site that you can also use. So I would really encourage you to do that. Study Unit 2 is about the actual crime intelligence process. Step 1, the collection. Step 2, the collation. Step 3, analysis. Step 4, dissemination. And then between step 4 and step 5 is an outcome. I hope you noticed that. And then step 5, there is feedback. So if there is something about the crime intelligence process or sources of information, you will find that in Chapter 2. So go and flag those things, flag where you can get sources of information, flag where you can get the crime intelligence process, where it starts with collection, and then it moves on to the next step, which is collation, moving on to the next step, which will then be analysis, moving on to dissemination, followed by the outcome, and then feedback. So that covers Study Unit 2. Study Unit 3 is proactive crime intelligence. Remember, there's different types of crime intelligence. If you look at paragraph 1.3 of Study Unit 1, now in Study Unit 3, the proactive crime intelligence is unpacked. So look at proactive crime intelligence as a concept. Look at what crime prevention itself is. Remember, because proactive crime intelligence is actually you trying to prevent a crime. So if something is proactive, you act before an incident. So it's crime intelligence before. You know, when we had the looting. I don't know if there was proactive crime intelligence, but whatever there was, it wasn't acted on, so they weren't able to prevent looting, but they were able to prevent further looting with reactive crime intelligence. Then you will look at crime pattern analysis, which forms part of proactive crime intelligence, because to be able to forecast something, we usually look backwards to analyze going forward and to say, okay, past incidents, this and this and this has happened. If this type of incident has happened, this type of car is stolen, this type of car is hijacked, we can with relative assurance say going forward, this is the type of MO that the criminals will follow. Then they do crime pattern analysis. And then geographic crime analysis, what is that? That's a type of crime pattern analysis where you analyze crime patterns geographically to be able to identify hotspots and then to do your policing on that specific hotspot area. So that covers the content of Study Unit 3. Study Unit 4 is the reactive crime intelligence. This is the crime intelligence that is after the fact. That's where we look at the looting and say, okay, so this is what happened, and this is what happened, and this is what happened. And then we try and take that information and we try and prevent incidents happening going forward. So in terms of reactive crime intelligence, we look at what is reactive crime intelligence, and we look at it, the position of reactive crime intelligence in terms of in the context of crime investigation. How does reactive crime intelligence look like? Then we look at the linkage crime analysis, using linkage crime analysis, and this is where we where we would use, like, for example, cell phone data to see what was the person's modus operandi, what was the person's movement. So we can, going forward, we can predict he was here and there based on the reactive crime intelligence. Looking back, we can now prevent incidents going forward. And then we look at association and commodity flow analysis. And that covers the reactive crime intelligence. The last but not least is the use of financial information profiling during investigation or for court. So you look at what is a financial investigation and the activities that are performed during a financial investigation. We are looking at the financial approach to the investigation, the crimes against people, crimes against property. We are looking at financial methods of estimating income. What does income mean? We are looking at indirect methods to estimate income, preparing a financial profile, and the net worth formula. That's the last one I wanted to chat briefly about, the net worth formula. And that covers study unit 5. You will not be asked to do a financial analysis of a person. So you will not be asked to prepare a financial profile. So please don't stress about that. You will not be asked to do a financial profile. And that covers your 5 study units. So please flag and tag your study guide, read through it, make sure that you know where the information is. And what you can also do is you can thematically, based on these themes, you can have folders on your device, and you can go and download for yourself information in the meantime. Thematically, because then you know more or less thematically what type of information you can prepare and you can get yourself. So this is more or less like proactively doing your research for your upcoming exam. Okay, mark allocation. The humdinger that got many of you very unhappy in assignment 1 and assignment 2. Okay, so in your feedback tutorial letter 201, we explained to you that the mark allocation would be as follows. You will get 40%. So example, if the question is out of 5, you will get 2.5 marks if you used just the study guide. So in other words, if you took the study guide and you basically just paraphrased the study guide. But if you took the study guide and you took an additional resource or an additional source and you paraphrased this, then you will get 4 out of 5 or 3 out of 5. Sorry, my maths isn't very good tonight. 3 out of 5. But if you took the study guide and your additional resources and you provided your own practical examples or scenarios, then it's possible to get more, 4.5 out of 5. So I want you to approach your answers in this theme, and this is also how we're going to be marking. So if you must give me a definition of forensic crime intelligence, for example, and it's worth 5 marks, and you give me what's in the study guide, you are going to get 2.5 out of 5. And no, you're going to get 2 out of 5. If you do the maths, if you do this for every question, you are not going to pass. You are going to get 40%. But if you go the extra mile and you go and read up more and you provide your own examples, because it's by providing your own example or putting the stuff in your own words that the markers and I can see, but you are able to apply the theory in terms of the question. Then I want to also emphasize something very important.
Sorry for interrupting you. I have a question.
Yes, Maria. Yes.
Are we gonna be given the opportunity to ask questions at the
You
end of the
are,
session?
you are, you are.
Okay, because I want to ask you mainly about this, like what is going on right now on the screen,
Okay.
because I'm so perplexed about paraphrasing and referencing.
I'm going to cover that. I'm going to cover that. We will talk about paraphrasing and we will talk about referencing. And I'm even going to show you how to reference correctly.
Thank you.
Okay, it's a pleasure. Okay, so remember also, you have to reference. The student that was just on, and a lot of you were perplexed about the referencing. So let's talk a little bit about referencing. For FOR2607, I told you referencing was important. I emphasized how important referencing was, and yet when the exam time came, so few of you actually referenced. It doesn't help that you have a reference list at the end of your exam, but none of those references are reflected in the text. So I want to emphasize, please, you have to reference every question and every sub question. Okay, but what does this look like? Okay, so
Ma'am, you're muted.
my apologies. Am I audible now?
Yes, thank you, ma'am.
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
you are.
I'm sorry, I don't know what happened there. Okay, so there is an example, and then you will see on the left at the bottom here, Kraus, Botha, and Zinn. This is your study guide. So if you are referencing your study guide, this is what I want to see. Kraus, Botha, and Zinn, space, date, colon, and then the page numbers. But now I've gone one step further. I've gone to look online what Nkosi said surveillance is, and I've added what Nkosi said in here. So immediately this tells the reader that there are two references being used. So for me, this is very important, and I hope this addresses part of the referencing issue. But now, how does one paraphrase? I was given the following advice by a colleague of mine who said she teaches her students to first write the content in their home language and to translate that in their own words into English. So always try and write, even if it's loosely translated, try and translate the information into your home language and then turn it back into English so that it means the same as the original text. Don't copy directly. Even if you are referencing, you should never copy directly unless you are quoting somebody. And we usually only do this when we quote legislation. So what is the purpose of referencing? It's to show the reader where you got the information from. To not reference means that you are actually, what you are saying is your own information. It's your own words. And once you've read the study guide, and the study guide has told you what surveillance is, and you want to reflect that, even if it's your own words, it's not your own ideas. It's information that you got somewhere else. So now we have, because you're going to have sub questions as well. Now we have question 2.1 and 2.2. Must you reference each separately? Yes, you must. So you can, for example, answer as follows. Discuss the concept of intelligence in your own words. This is 3 marks. Please, I don't want you to look at the length of my answers here and say, okay, a 3-point answer would be 4 lines, a 4-point answer would be 5 lines. No, this is just for sake of example that I'm giving it to you. So when you are expected to reference, you can do it in one of 2 ways. So you can either say, according to Nkosi, with the date and the page, intelligence is, and then you tell me what intelligence is, and then you give me an example of what intelligence is. Immediately, it pushes the marks up. If you want to make it really easy for the marker, I would, for example, if I'm giving an example, I would bold it or I would highlight it, or if I'm writing in my hand, I would underline it so that it stands out and it's clear. Here is an example, because we can sometimes miss these things, and I don't want it to be missed. So highlight for the marker, when are you giving your own example? And then question 2.2, how does one approach an informer for 4 marks? Then you can say informers, and then you write your story and you provide an example. And again, at the bottom here, I've used 2 different sources. So if you do not reference, guys, if you do not reference, you are going to lose marks. I had my hands in my hair with 2608. Because so many of my students simply did not bother to reference. You are 2nd year at a university, and one of your fellow students mentioned it the other day in such a concise way. She said, at a university level, you are expected to prove where you got your information from, and this is referencing. Now, the sooner you learn to reference, the better. You will remember in 1st year, FOR 1502, we touched on referencing, and I'm trying to enforce it and reinforce it in FOR 2608 and now in 2607. So while you were not, you were expected to use external sources and to reference, now we're allocating marks. So this is basically money from home. It's basically mahala marks that you are getting if you give a reference for every question and sub-question. Okay, and this concludes our discussion. So now let us take some questions and hear from the floor what it is that people want to know. I think everybody should be able to unmute themselves. Okay, we're going to take 3 questions at a time. We have Pilasande and Janisha. Okay, I only have those 2. So Pilasande, you can go first.
Thank you, Prof. Good evening to you and to the fellow students on the line. Thank you, Prof, for your time.
You gone? Pilasande, you've been muted.
Sorry, Prof, there's somebody that's unmuted. I think it's Lindo Kuhle with some background noise there.
Okay, guys, can we just all please mute our mics?
Thank you so much. Prof, on the previous slide, just the question on discuss or name or define in your own words. Yep. I think you had it on the previous slide. So I'm always challenged with specific questions that say in your own words. As an example, if the question says, name the sources of information in your own words, the textbook answer would be open sources and closed sources, right? So when you say in your own words, am I now going to go and find a synonym of open and closed? So that always just confuses me. It's one thing if I'm asked to define intelligence in my own understanding and words, but just the direct ones, which there's only the textbook answer, how are we supposed to handle that? That's my first one. Maybe let me allow
Excellent
you to
question.
answer that.
Excellent question. And the markers and I will be having a meeting to unpack the memo to address these things. So I'm very glad that you are bringing this up, guys. Where there are things like, let's take question 2 of assignment 2. List 5 criteria of tactical crime intelligence. How do you put that in your own words? You cannot. You cannot. Then you simply say accuracy, objectivity, usability, relevance, readiness, and timeliness, and that will be fine. But if it's give 4 examples of reactive tactical crime intelligence in your own organization, that's when your own words become incredibly important. So let the question guide you. For example, name 5 types of closed sources. You cannot paraphrase that. You cannot put it in your own words, but please reference it. Tell me where you got the information from. And while we're on that, I don't think many of you realize, because perhaps it's not clear in the study guide, but you cannot use doctor's records of a patient. That is a closed source which you will not get access to unless there is a court order. Lawyer and attorney-client privilege. You will not get access to that information. So don't, even if that question comes up, don't give that option because it's incorrect. Go and read the study guide again. It's a type of closed source. The police will not use it because they won't get access. So, Pilasanda, I hope that answered your question. Let it guide you, but I will also make sure that the markers and I are on the same page as to what does it mean in your own words, the implication thereof. Pilasanda, you said you had another question. You said you had 2.
Thank you, Prof. I think you answered me.
Okay.
I was actually concerned with the previous slide where I think it was also saying according to your own words, and then the answer started with according to Nkosi. So now you've answered me to say that even if you do take the textbook answer, make sure that you still reference. So I'm covered.
Yes.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay, Janisa.
Hi,
I see.
Professor.
Hi.
Viviana.
Awesome. Well, and you?
Well, thanks. Okay, so my question would be, is for the format, if any long questions, for example, for like 10 mark or 20 mark questions, do we need to provide an introduction, a body and conclusion, or is just to state exactly 10 facts or 20 facts? And then my second question is, are there going to be any application-based questions?
Okay, let me answer the first question. If there's a long question, please, there must be no introduction, body and conclusion. Answer what is asked, as simple as that. Then I want to ask you, what do you mean by application question? Do you mean a case study or a scenario?
Okay, for FOR2608,
Yeah.
I think it was question 4, where I may be incorrect, but from what I understood is that you couldn't get the answer just from one part of the study guide. You had to get it from different parts and just like use your knowledge to answer that question, right? So in that sense, are we going to get questions where it's not only going to be where you can get it from just one unit, but the one question where you can use different units to answer that question?
Okay, I think you are referring to question 5. The answer to question 5 was nowhere in the study guides, nowhere. You had to go and look at the content of the study guide and ask yourself in terms of what was asked. How did this impact on what you do? How does it impact on interviewing? How does it impact on statement taking? And you had to go and sit and think practically, how did COVID influence how we do our work and how we get to do our work? So while some of the students went and told me out of the study guide, what is this, what is that, what is the next? So in other words, it covered all 5 aspects. The answers themselves were not in the study guide. The answers themselves will be, you had to sit and think, how does this impact my everyday work in terms of going forward, because COVID is a reality. And while we in the different levels of lockdown, COVID impacts how we do our work. I mean, look how we're having class. We're having online class. Otherwise, we would have been at the Brooklyn campus or at the main campus in one of those halls. We would have been having a contact session there. But COVID doesn't permit that. So ask yourself, in terms of application, you had it in 2608. If I can answer it this way, there is no case study or scenario for 2607 because you didn't have a case study or a scenario in any of your assignments. I may not ask a type of, I may not use a methodology, let me put it to you that way, that you have not been familiarized in terms of the specific module. So you are actually putting me on the spot, Janisha, by asking me that question. All I'm going to say is watch the space. That's all I'm going to say. I'm going to use my right to not say anything. Okay, I see Janisha is off. I hope we haven't lost her. No, there she is. She's just muted. Okay, and then the next 3 we have is Sharissa, Tiane and Zam. So let's start with Charissa.
Good evening, Professor. I wanted to find out, are we expected to add the academic integrity declaration at the end of the portfolio?
No. Once you've checked the honesty declaration, that's basically the academic integrity. So once you check that box, you are saying, I will not cheat, I will not take help from other people, I will reference, and what you are getting is my own work unassisted.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Okay. Tiane?
I just wanted to know what are the odds because I submitted wrong assignments. So I want to know what's going to happen to my final mark. Am I going to pass or am I going to fail? Because
what do you mean you submitted wrong assignments?
I submitted wrong assignments on purpose. Like, it's not assignments that were meant for forensic methods and FOR2607.
Yeah.
So I got 0 for both of them.
Oh dear.
Am I audible?
Yes, you're very audible. I'm just very shocked.
I was in hospital because of COVID-19, so I could not submit them. I did not have a chance to write them, so I decided to submit wrong assignments.
Oh. But if you submitted the wrong assignment, why didn't you rather submit a sick note?
I don't know.
Oh, please write me an email about this. Let's see what we can do about your situation, because at this stage you have no year mark.
Yes, I do. So I want to know if they're just gonna give me the mark that I got on the examination.
Probably yes. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. I'm sorry. And then we have another Zam. Our next speaker,
Yes.
Zam.
Yes, hello.
Hello.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Firstly, I would like to start with the content of a portfolio. Is it necessary? Is it like, am I forced to do it?
What do you mean? Is it necessary? Are you forced to do it? Explain your.
I mean, it's a must that I must write the content of the portfolio like before I start the exam, the actual exam, before I even start the question. Like.
You mean a table of content and that type of thing? Is that what you mean?
Yes.
No. You can have your cover page, which says your student number, FOR2607, exam portfolio and a date. Next page, question 1, and you start.
Oh,
no
okay.
bells and whistles.
Okay, I got that one.
Okay.
Another one, I think it's the one of referencing and everything, whereby I'm using the study guide, I use additional resources, and I use a practical example. If I'm using a practical example, would I be wrong if I'm taking something from internet, which is having like basic content with the question, and then I put it there as my answer? Would I be wrong?
If it's unedited, you will be wrong, because then it's not your answer. But if you are citing off the internet, let's say you found an article on crime intelligence,
Yes.
then you can cite that article.
Yeah.
But you must paraphrase. And guys,
yes, I know, that's for sure.
Yes, okay. let me just park this here for a moment. And it's good that you raised that. I can see when work is yours and when work is not yours.
Yeah.
It is like a totally different voice that speaks to me out of your exam paper, out of your assignments. I was a detective. I was a cop for 19 years. I was a detective. We pick these things up. If I'm reading your initial discussion of what is crime intelligence, for example, and I get to it's hock and stick, it's English, and I can make out what you say, and the next question is all of a sudden academically so beautiful. Do you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to check your Turnitin report.
Yes.
Okay, so guys, you know what? Go that extra mile. You will be so glad you did it, because then you produce your own work.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I'm covered, because it's kind of like those questions whereby you have to put your practical answer, and then I'll be thinking to my mind, okay, if this happens, according to my understanding, I understand that this means this. So if something is like this, probably then it will be this, and then I will write that.
Yes, and give examples, give a nice little bold thing and say, for example, if this happens, then X, Y, and Z could happen. So do yourself a favor and really think about your answers. Guys, open book exams are not easy.
Yeah,
they are not easy at all.
Yeah.
Okay, are you done?
Yes, I'm done. Thank you very much. That was all.
My pleasure. Okay, before I go to the next two, before I go to Sebulele and Janisha, I want to answer one of the questions on the chat that says, if I did write the information with my own knowledge, should I reference? Now, I'm wondering where you got the knowledge from, because nobody is born knowing this stuff. You read it somewhere, you learned it somewhere. So wherever you read this information, you must cite that information. It's as simple as that. Okay, Sibulele.
I'd like to find out if, for instance, when you're going through the instructions, they say, for instance, do not exceed 10 pages, and you probably go to like 12 pages or so. Will the marker still mark all the pages that are there?
Yes, they will. They will. It's going to be problematic when you get to 25, 30 pages. But I haven't had an example like that at all. I base the page allocation on my memorandum. So what I have in the memorandum is what I'm expecting. Usually what sometimes happens is students don't know what to say, and then they waffle. Then they write all sorts of nonsense. Stick to the facts, give your examples, write your 12 pages if you must, just don't write 25 pages. And it also then depends on your spacing. Adhere to the spacing limitations, because I had a couple of students in 2608 and their margins were set on the side at about, I don't know, about 10 centimeters. So you have this information running down the middle of the page into about 40 pages, but it wasn't actually 40 pages because you just have the thin text in the middle and I have to mark it. So make it easier for the marker as well and set your page allocation correctly. Sibulele, was that all that you wanted to ask?
Yes, thank you, Prof.
Awesome. Janisha, I see you got your hand up again, and then Tiane.
Hi, sorry. So the student Zam, so I think her question she didn't I don't think you understood her first question where she actually meant that, for example, right, say there is a article on, say there is an article on what happened in KwaZulu-Natal, the looting. There was like there was an article in the newspaper.
Yeah.
So she was asking, like, if she would like to use that as a practical example for one of her questions, does she still need to reference that article, or can she just use that as an example? Because I remember I did use the looting as an example, but I did not use it as a I did not reference it. I just used it as my practical example. I said, for example, looting, da 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 da.
Yeah. Okay, so let me answer it this way, and thank you for clarifying that. Otherwise, I would have been clueless. Okay, so if you are citing from the Natal Mercury, if you are seeing an example in the Natal Mercury, what is your source of information? The Natal Mercury. You have to reference, even if it's an example out of the Natal Mercury newspaper, you have to reference. But if you in the space of everything you read about the looting or everything you were exposed to about the looting, then you could say a practical example of a failure of crime intelligence is the recent looting that took place in South Africa. Then what do you reference? You don't reference anything. You are giving your own example in terms of a failure of crime intelligence. Here is a practical failure in South Africa. You didn't read it anywhere. Your logic told you if this is what crime intelligence can do, it didn't do it. So guess what? It failed. Does that distinction make it clear, Janisha? Janisha, are you covered? Okay, while we're waiting for Janisha to answer, I have Tiane.
Yes, Professor, it is clear. Thank you very much.
Awesome, thank you. Okay, sorry, yes.
I have another question.
Please ask.
Is bibliography the same as referencing?
No.
What is
Bibliography is everything I read, everything I read. But it's not contained. Everything that's in the bibliography is not in the text. A reference list is everything I'm using in the text. So what the references I see in the text must be in the list of references and vice versa. But in terms of a bibliography, there might be 10 references in the text, but there could be 200 entries in the bibliography. In criminal justice, we do not use a bibliography. We use a list of references. In the School of Law, they use a bibliography and they use footnotes. We don't use footnotes. We use in-text referencing as per the example I gave.
Okay, so is it mandatory to include bibliography at the end of your examination?
Please don't include a bibliography, include a reference list.
Okay.
What is wrong? You sound unhappy.
Because I have written bibliography in other examinations.
And if you wrote it in my examination, you would have got no marks for it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. I do see another hand. I'm not sure whose hand it is though. It looks like Dakalu and followed by Pila Sunday.
Good day, Prof.
Hi.
Prof, I just want to go back on the information that you gave about the knowledge. I was the one who asked for the question. So you said that there is no possible way that you could learn something anywhere and then without a reference. So I want to make an example, Prof, on FOR2608, question number 5. I wrote the whole information based on the information that I got from the news. I didn't consult any sources, so I was just making a flashback of what I saw, and then I make it to become applicable based on the scenario. So I was asking, even though I did maybe got the information from the news, do I still have to reference that?
No.
That is maybe the possibility that I have forgotten.
In the context. Sorry, in the context you've just mentioned, for example, question 5 in FOR2608, you had to apply your mind and you had to give your practical understanding of. But look at the question, look at how the question was asked. However, if you look at, let's say, in your own words, discuss the major goals of a financial investigation. That information you have to get somewhere. So perhaps I should have just given a distinction of the type of question. And my apology for perhaps creating confusion there. So in terms of the application question, question 5, FOR2608, there you cannot reference. You can reference if you want to. I mean, nothing prevents you from referencing and giving practical examples, but you were giving your own practical opinion of how COVID impacted on these areas of, I beg your pardon, information gathering. So there it was fine not to reference. But in other instances, for example, when you are asked to give to give your own definition of information or intelligence, you're definitely going to get the answer somewhere. And I hope that explains it a bit clearer. And I'm sorry for the original confusion I may have created.
It's not a problem. First, I've gotten some answer. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Okay, Pila Sunday.
Thank you, Prof. Just on the rules of the exams, specifically on line spacing, which is normally 1.5, I think. There are instances where, yes, I've applied 1.5 spacing, but I look at my answer and I see that it's a bit cramped, it looks untidy, but now we have to stick to this 1.5. Is there any lenience that is applied if I maybe move it to a 2, or if it was a 1, I move it to a 1.5? Because I believe the presentation, or our answers must always be presentable and neat. So I just wanted to hear your views on that. Thank you.
Personally, I don't have a problem if you make it 2. The only problem might come in then if it pushes you over a 12, 15 page limitation, because that's going to be the impact. If you are concerned about what I, as the reader, will see, remember I get a PDF and I have an option to make the document bigger or smaller. At my age, I make the document bigger because the eyesight isn't what it was. So don't let that force you to make your spacing bigger. Stick to the guidelines given.
Thanks, Prof.
Okay. Tiani, your hand is still up. Is that an old hand, or do you want to ask something else?
I don't have any questions. I forgot to
lower your hand
down.
Not a problem. I see Zam wants to ask something, but let me first take a couple of questions in the chat box. Will there be a recording of? Okay, let me go up. How many marks do you lose if you do not reference? For me, 1 mark. Lost is 1 mark too many. At minimum, you are looking at a mark per question or sub-question. So make sure you reference each and every question and sub-question. Will there be a recording of the meeting? Yes, there will be a recording of the meeting. I see some of you have problems accessing the Microsoft Teams link. So what I do is I place my recordings on my YouTube channel, and then you can go and access it there. Hyacinth Parby is asking, must the reference list be after each question or at the end of the portfolio? Let me clarify. You have in-text references, and this is what an in-text reference looks like. And then at the end of your assignment, you will put in a reference list. I did not populate one on here, and I'm sorry for that, but what I will do is I will give you when I do upload this, the PowerPoint presentation will also be uploaded. I will give you an example of how to prepare a proper, an elementary, but at least a reference list. How many marks do you lose if you don't reference? If you don't reference, you will only be allocated 40%, meaning with a 5 point, you will get 2 out of 5. How many questions will the question paper consist of? Tulwana, I may not answer that question. You will see that when you get the question paper, not per sentence or paragraph. A reference, in-text reference, after every, in other words, once your answer is done. Let's say if your answer has 3 paragraphs and the content of paragraph 1 and 2 comes out of the study guide and the content of paragraph 3 comes out of another source, then the study guide will be after paragraph 1 and 2 and the other source after paragraph 3. How do we reference information that's not from a book but straight from the internet? It depends on the source. In other words, is it a PDF document? And there I just want to offer you some advice. If you do an online search, for example, you're searching for what is crime intelligence, always put a space and say PDF, because then it's going to cut out all the noise. You're going to get just PDF documents with the information in that you are looking for. Okay, I've gone through all those questions and now I have 2 remaining hands, Pila Sunday and Zam. Can we have Pila Sunday first?
Prof, it's a retired hand.
Okay, sorry. Yes. Okay, Zam.
Yes, Prof. It's last one.
Okay.
And a question whereby you asked to list. I think I don't know where you have to list things from the study guide, and then you know that those things are there in the study guide, and then you have to write them as they are. Will I be penalized if I take it from the study guide as it is, or do I have to paraphrase it even if it's like that and that I can't change it in any way?
Okay. So let's take a look at, let me go to something in the study guide. Page 12, sources of information. I think Janisha also asked this question. Let's say there's a question that says, how many types of sources of information are there? Please name them. Now, yes. You will not be able to put that into your own words. You will obviously say there are 2 types of sources of information, open sources and closed sources. You cannot paraphrase that. But if you are asked to explain what is a closed source, you cannot write it like that out of the study guide. Because I need to understand that you understand what you are writing. If you are copying from the study guide or from another piece of text, I don't know that you really understand what you are saying, that what you are putting down. Okay.
Better than that. Thank you.
Okay, sorted. Chafiwa.
Hi, Prof.
Hey.
How are you?
I'm well, and yourself, Chafiwa?
Yes, I'm fine. I just want to appreciate the way how you are presenting, and then, but what I'm so interested is, what about if maybe then after this presentation, then you create time, and then you sit down with the markers. So then you discuss what is actually, I mean, how are they going to mark our papers? Because when you are talking to us, it's very, we really understand. But the issue is, if those markers, maybe you didn't get time to sit with them and then advise them, I think that would be somehow. So I just, that was my request. I really appreciate what you are doing.
Oh, Chafiwa, it's my biggest pleasure. And Chafiwa, you might have missed it. I did mention in the beginning that I will be having exactly what I'm doing with you guys now. I have a Teams meeting with the markers. So what happens is, after the exam closes, we get your exams in, and I give each one. I first take the first 5. And then I mark 5 of them to see how does the memo speak to the answers that are coming in. Because remember, I can capture everything that's in the study guide, but I cannot capture everything out there in literature. Then I take those 5 and I mark them, and I see, okay, this can be added to the memo, that can be added to the memo, this we must take into consideration, that we must take into consideration. Then I adapt the memo. Then that memo I send to the markers. Then I tell them, okay, marker A, here is 5 exams for you. Here is the memo, mark and return to me. Then that marker marks, and I go and I check question 1. How did he interpret? Okay, yes, fine. Question 2. Okay, now here's a problem. He misinterpreted this, or he missed it. Here's an example. So marker for marker, question for question, I go through 5 exams per person. Once we're done with that, we have a meeting. We come together and we discuss, okay, question 1, what are the options that we must look at? What things are you finding? Did the students misinterpret a question? For example, you will remember assignment 2. The majority of you misinterpreted the last question. Question 10, before the crime pattern analysis applied and presented, a number of factors must be taken into consideration. Discuss these factors. The majority misinterpreted, and they gave me the after, not the before. So what we did is we had to sit down and look at how students interpreted, because I have no control over how you interpret something. And if I see the majority of them are misinterpreting, then I have to adapt the memo. So we will do that, Chafiwa, before we start the big process.
I really appreciate it.
Okay, all right.
Thank you very much, Prof.
My pleasure. All I ask is that you guys make it easy for us. Don't waffle. Don't write a lot of nonsense. Write what is applicable to the question. Make sure you reference each question or sub-question, and if you are providing an example, say, for example, and then you highlight so that it stands out for the marker, because we have 1,200 to mark and your eyes get sore here after 20, 25, and sometimes we're human, we get tired, we miss things, and I don't want to miss things. Okay, guys, it's 26 minutes past 7. I'm sure that you all have other things that you need to do. Let me just go check in the chat box. Tiani, you have a very good sense of humor. Zam, it is my greatest pleasure. I love doing this for my students. I love helping my students. I'm here for you guys. So remember, it's now recorded. I'm going to adapt the Nompi. When you're tackling long questions, look at what the questions asks, look at the key themes, and make sure that you address the key themes in the long question, and that you reference and you write it in your own words and provide practical examples thematically. So yes, I will update the PowerPoint presentation to make sure that I have a list of reference, an example of a list of reference. But now I don't want you to stress. If you don't have a list of references at the end, you will not lose marks. Because I've taught you how to do an in-text reference, so I can assess you on that, but I haven't taught you how to do a reference list, so I cannot assess you on that. So if you can put a reference list, if you can't, try your best, but you will not lose marks if you don't. Okay. I will update the PowerPoint presentation. I will upload it onto the module site, and I will circulate the link for the YouTube video. Please, please, please ask all your fellow students to please go and look at the video. We are how many in this group? We are 65 in this group. There are 1,200. Where are the other students? I know load shedding is happening, so but please tell them all to at least take a look at the video clip. I'm going to bid you good night. Have an awesome evening. I need to go and feed my hungry family. Be blessed, and then if there's anything, pop me an email, chat with me on email. Try and engage me on the big Telegram platform, not individually, because then I have to answer the same question 5 times. There are other students who might be interested in the same question as well. So awesome, guys. Have a wonderful evening, and yes, we'll chat again sometime.
Thank you. Bye. We love you.
You are kind. Tiane, please remember to send me that email.
I will, ma'am.
Okay, okay.
Bye.
Thank you, everybody. Be blessed. Be safe.
Bye, Prof.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.
And good luck.
Bye.
Bye, and thank you.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye.
Mama, go.